Time magazine has unveiled their list of the top 100 most influential people in sports in the year of our Lord 2026. There is not a Dallas Cowboy to be found, including the owner, but David Mulugeta is on the list.
Somehow that tracks.
That is objectively hilarious. It's also objectively ridiculous, but it's objectively very funny.
It's funny because we were here, almost a year ago, and Jerry's saying David who?
Right.
And basically trying to diminish the NFL super agent that is known for getting, the max guaranteed money for player contracts. Hilarious. Yeah, and to your point, it makes absolutely no sense that Jerry Jones himself is not on that list, considering the Cowboys are the most valuable sports franchise on the entire planet, and you make this list of influence. The owner of the most valuable franchise in sports should be on the list.
So,
case in point.
Especially when there are so many names on this list where I'm going, who? What did they do again? There's a guy who's famous for darts.
It's perfect.
I'm sure he's great at darts. I'm sure he's wonderful. I'm sure he's very influential in the dart world.
Let me put it this way: whenever there's a dart thing that pops off, it's usually something that he's doing.
Sure,
because it's hit my feed several times. So I'm not about to try and throw that.
Happy for
Go
him.
ahead, Kelly.
Are you saying I missed the cut again this year?
You did miss the cut. I'm very sorry. You were on the also mentioned.
I'm 101.
Yes. 101.
You guys want to see who was?
101st.
You guys want to see some of the people who were on the list?
That'd be great.
Boom.
Here were the football players specifically, because I wanted to try and compare apples to apples on this, because as much as we want to sit there and say football is king, if this is a global list, football's prominence might be a little bit skewed. The only thing I'll say on that front.
Only a little.
A decent amount. I mean, come on. But let's look at this because, again, they didn't just rank them. This wasn't 1 through 100. They created categories. So Jerry could have been 31st on the icons or titans category, and that's the only reason why he's not in here, right? But they separated out icons, titans, and leaders. Roger Goodell, owner of the main head guy of the NFL,
Basically the owner
of the NFL. It feels like he's the owner of the NFL. Saquon Barkley, which I found kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But in the titans category, that's where Smith-Njigba comes in, which is already kind of surprising given the season he got. But congratulations to him for making the list.
Yeah, I think it's a good pick for the list.
That's a big pull. Mulugeta hits the Titans category.
Arguably the true owner of the Cowboys.
That's so good. That is such a great line.
Leaders.
My work here is done.
She's making the list next year. Leaders, Myles Garrett. And Fernando Mendoza, who's not taken a snap in the NFL yet, but I threw him in there because obviously he's about to be the leader of the Raiders. So those are the 6 NFL-related people. Mike Tirico obviously made the list. There are a couple broadcast ancillary people involved with this, but these are the 6 names that if you were going to talk influential Time 100, these are the movers and shakers, quote-unquote, or at least the people in the respective categories that most exemplify the NFL. Somewhat
intriguing. I mean, JSN has had such an insane rocket ship of a year. I think a year ago, he's always been super talented, right, at every level. But this past 12 months for him has been, he's in the stratosphere.
Yeah.
And in terms of not only just his fame, but accolades, but also merchandise sales, he's like in the top 5. I mean, it has been transformative for him. For him to make that list, though, I think is a little bit surprising because he's had this one amazing year, whereas, I think of maybe some of the more established receivers that have been in the league maybe longer, was a little bit surprising.
But if this is
not a bad thing, but it was surprising.
If this is a snapshot of this year,
yeah,
this was his year.
It was his year.
And if we're being honest from the Cowboys' perspective, like if there was going to be any year in recent memory where it felt like they fell off a cliff.
Where was Matt Eberflus on this list? Because his influence was palpable.
It's a strange list.
It is.
It's an objectively strange list.
There were a lot of Winter Olympians, for instance, because that's going to tilt in their favor in this specific cycle, especially given
Andrew
it was
Seeley
6
made
months.
this list.
I did not make this list.
If I was 101, Andrew, are you hanging out at 102 with me?
No.
Or are you 101 and I'm 102?
No. I'm like 250.
I guess I missed the part. This is only just for the year. I thought this was just current just the state of sports.
So let me look up to make sure we get the factually accurate. Here's the problem, right? They take you to, here's how we made the list, and then they spend like 5
You know what?
paragraphs
Good on
describing-
time. I've been saying for so many years that if you want people to click and engage with your stuff, just make lists, just rank stuff, because
yeah.
people love to argue about rankings and lists. It is
And they-
just in our nature. I don't know where it started,
And they
why
don't
this
want
is a
to.
thing.
They don't want to read articles. They just want the.
No,
one,
I just want to
2,
see the
3,
list, and I
4.
just want to rage.
Well,
And
like, think about the fact that, like, with their Time Person of the Year, and they are always, people have been up in arms about their Person of the Year in the past, and it's like, it's not necessarily the person who did the most good, it's the person who had the biggest impact on the year.
Yeah, but this has been going back for years, Kelly. I mean, think about people's like sexiest person alive. I mean, this has
I
always
was
been
also
a thing.
101 on that list too.
People just love to argue about the rankings and who's
Oh,
top
yeah.
5.
I mean,
who's
it's
top
human nature, man.
3.
This is incredibly frustrating though, because you click on the here's how we chose
is what
the
I'm
list,
saying.
and there's no information
It's
on
just-
how they chose the list.
It literally
They wax poetic about
Maybe
LeBron
they-
James for 5 paragraphs
Exactly.
and say nothing about how they made
Maybe
the list.
they're-
I
Maybe
literally
they're
had this thought
explaining
like
that.
30 minutes ago. I agree.
Maybe that's
What?
the whole point is we just did it with AI. Which,
No,
There is no explanation at all how they made this list, and this list is so incredibly flawed.